Good evening. It is 5:15 this Monday, May 22nd, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have tonight's agenda in front of us. Roll call, all are present. We have the consent agenda, and I'll read it as follows. We have the approval of the minutes of the May 8th, 2023 meeting. We have approval of bills and claims for this cycle. We all have several licenses and permits. A renewal of a Class C retail alcohol license for Brothers on Main. A renewal of a Class E retail alcohol license for Casey's General Store, number 3025. Outdoor service of Ronald McDonald House fundraising event for July 24th, and for Ragbri, Kerp's Bar and Grill. A new 5-day Special C retail alcohol license with outdoor service for Top of Iowa Lucky Wife. That's a mouthful. A new 5-day Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service, also for Ragbri, for Carroll Moose Lodge. And then we also have a resolution allowing alcohol beverage sales and a new 5-day special Class C retail alcohol license, again for Lucky Wife Wine Slushies. And then we also have appointments by the council. First one, Cynthia Scatarico with Parks and Recreation and Cultural Advisory Board, a 3-year term to expire in 26. Also Joshua Sporer, also to the Parks and Rec and Cultural Board, a 3-year term to also expire in 26. And also Chad Ross, Parks and Recreation Cultural Advisory Board, also to expire in 26. I would seek a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda if there are no questions.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Kyle, moved by Tom, seconded by JJ. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Shrek?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Borton?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. You got it. Item number 4 is oral requests and communications from the audience. Members of the public can approach the council at this time to address anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Are there any? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item number 5 tonight is the Adams Street grade ordinance. And Randy, I'll toss it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Iowa code requires that any paving that's placed by the city must be to grade when the improvement is complete. The local code of ordinance, the city code of ordinances, does not have a reference to a grade ordinance on Adams Street through the reconstruction area from US 30 to 13th Street. So we prepared a street grade ordinance for Adams Street through that reconstruction area for your consideration tonight. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend that you consider and passage and approval of the resolution, or excuse me, ordinance establishing the street grades on Adams Street.
Any questions for Randy? If there are none, I would seek a motion to approve the Adams Street grade ordinance.
So moved.
Would this be for the first reading? Is that how, do you prefer it, or would you like all 3?
It's entirely up to you. There's
I'm going to leave it up to the council
not a
too,
lot
but
of controversy on this grade ordinance.
yeah.
It's not gonna hold anything up though, will it, if we do 3 readings?
It
Okay.
would not.
Well, do we amend it then to waive the first 2 and just go with the third? And
It's your motion.
I will make that motion that we waive the first 2, finalize it.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a motion from Carolyn and a second from Misty to approve the Adams Street grade ordinance and waive all three readings, correct? Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Jerks.
Yes.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Perfect, thank you. Item number,
Don't we have to-
okay, yeah, we got to adopt it now, though, so let's move to adopt. I seek a motion to adopt the ordinance.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, by, okay, Laverne, and then seconded by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman.
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Jerks.
Yes.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Motion.
Perfect, thank you. Now we'll move to item number 6 under resolutions, and Randy, you're still up with Adams Street reconstruction. And I have 520, and we will go ahead and open the public hearing on the proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost. Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. On May 3rd, the plan, specification, form of contract, and estimate of costs for the Adams Street reconstruction project were filed by McClure Engineering Company. The plans, of course, detail the replacement of the paving, roadway paving, some sidewalk, and curb ramp, complete public utility replacement, or excuse me, municipal utility replacement, and then partial replacement of sanitary sewer and water service lines. And that is on Adams Street from US 30 to north of 13th Street. Specifications are the statewide urban specification with local Carroll supplemental specs. Form of contract is the SUDES unit bid price contract that we've used numerous times in the past. The current estimated construction cost of the project is $3,731,207. With that estimated construction cost, we're estimating now the total project cost to be $4,071,937. Now, during the preparation of the FY24 budget, there was a presentation of estimated cost or estimated funding at that time. And that estimated funding included local option, sales tax, road use, electric franchise, then a TIF loan, and also a GO bond in a total amount of $3,860,000. Since that time, there have been some issues that have come up. Certainly one of them being that the estimated cost is now more than $3.86 million. But the others have included the special assessment procedure that has been discussed and acted upon, at least the preliminary assessment schedule. And the value of the special assessments in the preliminary phase is $86,832.96. Now, those will be collected through over a period of years. They certainly can be credited to the project or to any fund that funds the project. I've not included those in a revised total project funding proposal, primarily because the bills will need to be paid and immediately, and those will be paid over a period of years. So like I say, they could be credited to any fund that pays the bills up front, whether it be bonded and to repay the bond funds, or to repay an internal loan or funding from one of the utility funds or both, or a general fund, or wherever there's a fund balance that may be desired to be spent. Secondly, there had not been in that initial funding proposal any recognition of the utility funding for replacement of the water and sanitary sewer. And there had been some discussion that those utility funds maybe should contribute to the project funding stream. And if that's a desire to do so, currently the estimate for that utility construction is $450,000 for the sewer and $605,000 for the water. So any part or all of that could be included in the eventual funding stream for the project. Then thirdly, in November 21, there was authorized a loan from the Sewer Utility Fund to the Corridor of Commerce Capital Project Fund. That was identified for the construction of the Streetscape 11 project. Now, with the cancellation of the Streetscape 11 project, that Capital Projects Fund in the Corridor of Commerce is sitting with a fund balance actually in excess of $1 million. So there had been some discussion of utilizing that funding also on the Adams Street project. It's eligible to be utilized. The mechanics of getting it from Corridor of Commerce to Adams Street can be worked out if that's your desire. So adding those two funding sources or possible funding sources, the utility funds and the Corridor of Commerce Capital Project Fund, to that initial proposed funding scheme is illustrated on the page 3 of the memorandum. It practically eliminates the need for a general obligation bond if that's your desire. There is a kind of a shortfall of about $42,000. Actually, I didn't do anything with that at this point in time. We'll be receiving bids June 6th. The bids may be lower, and that $42,000 may go away. The bids may be higher, and that $42,000 may be compounded. So as far as identifying down to the dollar, at this point in time, that is not presented in the memorandum. But otherwise, there's the possibility of those two funding sources if that's your desire to use those for this project. Certainly the Corridor of Commerce loan funding that's available can be used for other Corridor of Commerce or corridor projects or TIF projects, I guess. And certainly we have identified in the next budget year the resurfacing of many streets in that TIF area. And we're anticipating that to be in excess of $1 million. Also in the 5-year plan, there's a proposal for upgrading the traffic signals on Highway 30. And most of the traffic signals are included in the current TIF area. So that funding, that would be an eligible project also for that funding. And that project is anticipated, I think, in fiscal year 25 in the 5-year plan. So there's other uses for the money as well as Adams Street. Never a shortage of needs for money. But in any case, that's a funding proposal. We are scheduled to receive bids for the project on June 6th and expect that award of the contract or your consideration for award will be at your next meeting on June 12th. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend following the public hearing that you consider adoption of the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost, and then whatever discussion you desire to have on the proposed funding for the project.
Very good, very clear and very plain. It's, I think, well understood. Are there anybody here that wants to approach the council and speak during the public hearing regarding Adams Street? Andy?
Randy Toft, 708 North Adams. 28 days ago, this council in these chambers unanimously approved a proclamation offered by the mayor to have Carroll as a tree city for the 34th year in a row. Now, as the plans come forward, it appears that same council may approve destroying a third of a mile of trees in the heart of the city. I come before you this evening to beg you to spare the lives of the 2 huge trees in the front of my lot. Someone nearly 100 years ago thought that those trees could be an advantage to the community, and obviously dozens since have seen their value. I can't speak for other property owners and the fate of their trees. I can only fervently beseech you to give direction in an effort to save the 2 trees I have temporary conservatorship of. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Anybody else want to speak during the public hearing regarding Adams Street? Seeing none? All right, very well. I see we have 5:30, and we will go ahead and close the public hearing on Adams Street. And then you have, council has recommendation from Randy regarding the consideration of the plan specifications, form of contract, and the cost and project, how we're going to pay for it. Does anybody have any questions for Randy or throw out for any discussion?
I thought our streetscape was 1.6 million. The streetscape 11 that we were doing was 1.6 million.
Uh-huh.
Did we set 1.6 million aside or just a million?
There's only been $1 million approved at this point.
Okay.
Or authorized for the loan.
Got it.
Can you also just refresh my memory on what Streetscape 11 was? I
Street-
think I know, but I want it to be said out loud.
Sure. Streetscape 11 was on Highway 30 from 71 to West Street and from Clark Street to Grant Road. That was the original
So it was the
proposal.
additional lighting, things of that nature that would travel us out west and out east.
Yep.
Okay.
Lighting, sidewalk
Right.
improvements.
So I'm only one vote, but I mean, I know that we as a council had determined at some point to not do that piece, but I'm still strongly in favor of that. So I'm just saying that out loud. And then my other question for you, Randy, was the sewer utility fund and the water. I mean, because that hasn't been brought up before now, was there a reason why that was being saved back and why we're choosing to maybe use it as a funding source now?
No, it had been discussed, I guess, at the staff level.
Right.
During development of the project, and it just had not been incorporated into a proposed funding scheme. So it's, reasonable to assume that actually the reconstruction of the water and sewer was added relatively late in the project also. But it's reasonable to assume that maybe with the reconstruction of those utilities, that the utility funds could contribute to the cost.
Okay.
I've provided here what the total estimated cost is. It doesn't have to be that, it can be less, could be equal to that either way.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't saving those funds back for some other big major project and then we weren't going to have them.
Right, well, there's not currently in the 5-year plan any project targeted for the entire balances in those 2 funds. Now, we have some small projects, and of course, at the wastewater treatment plant, we could have looming larger projects. At this point in time, unknown for cost and extent of work. But both funds are pretty healthy. They're in good shape, and certainly the reconstruction of those utility lines is reasonable to assume that could be spent from, if desired, from those utility funds, or if needed.
Okay, thank you.
So in 25, you mentioned that we're probably going to be looking at the street lights,
Traffic signals,
traffic
yes.
and the like. What is the cost? Any estimate on what that will be?
Right now, we have it estimated in the capital improvement program at $460,000.
And where are you gonna get those money from if we use all of, the streetscape money, the million?
Well-
Where are you gonna get that 460,000 from?
It would be anticipated to be another TIF
Okay.
loan, and then that loan repaid by TIF also. And currently, that's the project that's in the fiscal year '24 budget for CBD street resurfacing. That is also, when we thought we were going to do Streetscape 11, that would have been another loan to do that, and then repaid by the TIF collection.
So in the first scenario, the GO bond, the 1.8 million, how is that going to affect our property tax? Do we know what that levy rate would be if we incorporated it?
As a GO debt, that would obviously, if we're planning on paying for it, would come straight out of the debt service. So of course, that would increase our debt service levy. If we use the TIF, go ahead.
That number was calculated kind of backwards in order to keep your debt service levy level.
Right.
That was kind of what was planned and then backed into this project at $1.88 million. So it would have kept your debt service level, certainly it's higher. But without that, then if you want to maintain that level debt service, then you would have to advance another debt issuance.
But there's gonna be some, if I remember right, there was gonna be some payoffs that were gonna happen, that we could absorb this 1.8 and not increase property taxes, if my memory corrects
Yeah,
me.
that was the idea behind keeping the debt service levy level.
Okay, so where I'm going with this is my concern is the state legislature's just passed a 3% maximum for us. So if we lower our tax rate on that, then we're basing everything off 1.8 million less for that 3% maximum. See where I'm going?
Yes,
with
but
this?
that's on the 810 levy and some of those other levies. That does not affect our debt service levy, which is an outside levy of that 810. The other thing, and
Indirectly it does, but go ahead.
well, the other thing, since we're going into a 3-year cycle of debt issuance, paying it off, and we're a year or two past on this project. So utilizing the TIF dollars to pay off this debt which is the downtown beautification project, would allow us to maintain that 3-year debt project, or cycle, which would then allow us to go to our next project that we're planning on using GO debt.
3 years from now.
No, it'd be a year and a half from now, because we're
because we're
already a
already
year and a
into
half
it.
in. If we
That's
do
right.
the GO debt issuance now we're behind a little bit on those projects. So
Remember that?
utilizing the TIF in the downtown business district is actually a pretty smart idea in this case, because there's funds available to help us fund these projects.
Well, I think it just is logical that we use the sewer and water utility funds to improve the water mains, et cetera. That's why people pay it. So to me, it's very logical to turn those into improving this infrastructure. And if we can save and not be servicing debt right now, we're not digging a hole now, we may be confronted with other things down the road. I personally think avoiding debt, GO bonds, it would be a wise decision right now. Adding to our debt is, when we have this, and we'll be accumulating more sewer and water utility funds as we go along, Randy. So then when we're talking about our 3-year cycle, we will have replenished some of these also, possibly. Are you thinking we will be adding to these funds, not the full amount, but some of it.
Yeah, they're in the utility funds, in both utility funds, the rate structure yields a little more annually than the expenditures. So they have accumulated balances that are reasonable for long-term capital improvement.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Anybody else?
Now, these are all just projected, and once we get the bids in, then we get to work with the hard numbers.
Sure.
We would also, because of the tie to the beautification project, we would have to pass a resolution to change that funding source from that to the Adams Street project too. So we'll have a chance to talk about this further.
Okay.
But when you mentioned that the bids have to come in and then, but the only number that would be affected would be the balance, depending on where the bid comes in. Because all the other, if the council's in agreement to use all the other funding sources prior to that, then that's the only number that needs to be decided beyond today.
Yes, if the other two numbers are acceptable, or that's your desire to move that
Unless it's
direction.
below that 41,000,
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I mean,
which may never
yeah,
happen.
I was gonna say,
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully.
Good questions, good points. Anybody else? So then I would seek a motion to approve the adoption of the plans, specifications, form of contract, estimated cost, and the funding stream. And again, Randy has identified essentially option A on page 2, or option 3, which again, I won't have a vote, but have a personally favor of on page 3, which it uses the $1 million out of streetscape. Someone want to make a motion?
So moved.
To what, Tom?
So moved.
Okay. And to use what funding?
Well, the funding that we weren't using with the old streetscape.
Okay,
project.
so as identified on page 3?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Tom, second by Carolyn, to move forward with the Adam Street plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost, and as identified by Randy on page 3. Before I call for a vote, does the council wish to address Randy's concern with those trees? And if you don't mind me saying so, Randy, you made a good point, fair point. We are a tree city. We're planning to be a tree city for another 34 years. The only thing that I'm certainly aware of is that those are in the right of way. There's several trees that are being removed that are in the right of way. And for this project to be done and the scope of it in which we're doing, this is the first total reconstruction we've done in over 60 years, and it needs to be done right. And I would certainly be in favor of, as the plan is designed, to remove the trees that are in the right of way, and keeping in mind what we're doing for, we're also cutting down literally hundreds of ash borer trees as well too. I mean, we're, as often as we're planting trees, we're also cutting some down out of necessity. And those trees aren't diseased, but they are in the right of way. And so for them to work, I would certainly, it's council's decision, but according to the plan, is they need to be removed. Anybody else have a comment on that? Or have I pretty well captured it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we still have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Bordenero.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, very good. Okay, so Adam Street for tonight. Okay, we are on item 6B, and that is the 8th amended and restated urban renewal plan. And Aaron, you're going to fill in for Laura here?
Yep. Just a notice that the notices were published as required, and prior to the public hearing or prior to today, we have not received any positive or negative comments.
Good. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing now at, let's see, 5:44. That's throwing me off. 5:44. Go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there, you want to add anything more to that then?
This addition to the urban renewal area is the blue area to the northwest or to the top of the yellow area on that map. And that is the only change we're making to the urban renewal area.
Okay, and this was, again, prompted by the Court Street apartment project, pretty well prompted it.
Actually, this is for.
Well, it's
for
to
the-
add the Nealon property
Correct.
if that comes
Correct.
available. But
Yes.
what kind of prompted all of this was.
Yes.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been done otherwise, so.
That was,
Okay.
that was the former assistant or interim city manager's doing. It wasn't me.
Okay, is there anybody here that wishes to speak during the public hearing on the 8th amended and restated urban renewal plan? Hearing none, we don't have anybody online. I shouldn't have asked, but nobody online? Anybody have anything else to add? Okay, all right. Well, let's go ahead and close the public hearing then at 5:46. So then now what you are seeking is a council to consider and approve the area and by resolution, the amendment to urban renewal. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Tom and then JJ? So to approve the resolution determining the area of the city to be economic development and blighted area and extended into the urban renewal plan, 8th Amendment. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks.
Yes.
Mordenaro.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Very good. And I'll keep you up, Aaron. You've got urban revitalization plan, kind of goes along with this.
Yeah, the same story as far as the public hearing is required. All notices have been published and we have not received any comments, negative or positive, for the revitalization plan. We are recommending only one change to the plan and that's the new abatement schedule for 10 years for 100% abatement for the Court Street project. The other note to the change is when this is adopted, it's going to start a new 10-year clock. So that's effectively adding 2 years to the entire revitalization plan.
Okay. And the date that you're setting would be June, let's see, I'm sorry, 12th, yeah, thank you. It's just pardon the load. Okay. Any questions for Aaron?
Do we have the current value of that property? Assessed value?
We probably do, but I don't have it with me off the top of my head.
Pull it up real quick.
Which one are you talking about?
The Nealon property?
No, are you talking about Court Street?
I'm Court Street.
Oh, the Court
It was
Street.
like 120
Yeah,
something.
yeah, that's correct. Any other questions for Aaron?
I guess technically we're just fixing the date for the public hearing.
Correct, right. And that would be for June 12th.
Yes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, Laverne, and seconded by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Mordenaro.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Very good, thank you. Okay, let's see, we're moving to item D, and that is the Merchants Park Baseball Stadium upgrades. And Chad?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I got two things before you today. Only one is a resolution. The first one is just discussing budgeting a little bit. Since we didn't get the original or the second try for Destination Iowa, the $353,080 that the the council has decided to put towards the Merchants Park project, with 100,000 being from ARPA, 100,000 from hotel motel, and $153,080 from lost funds. Those were allocated with the idea that it would go and be a match for that Destination Iowa grant. We didn't get either of those. We are still going after several large grants, but we're kind of at the point where we need to start moving forward with this project. So instead of just tying it to a specific grant opportunity, I would like the council's approval for it just to be allocated to the project. That way we can get the ball rolling and started while we continue to go at this in phases. Hopefully we can get the engineers started in good enough time where we still have a window to do some work this year, and then kind of schedule it out as money comes in. With that money right now, we've, and I say we, Chris Whitaker has been a huge asset on this with a lot of the different grant funding as well as the fundraising from Carroll Athletic Association. But we're sitting at about $528,080 right now for this project, and that'll get us a long ways. I mean, taking a look at some of the numbers, that should get us through the first two phases of this project. So, you know, to keep state happy, keep them hopefully here, I think those improvements would definitely need to be made, especially if we're looking at a long-term contract with them here for the city. So, so my recommendation is shifting that from being a match with strictly Destination Iowa to just a regular budgeted item, which it currently sits in our budget at that amount, but just allocating it so we can start using it for engineering and moving forward with the first phase of the project.
So essentially, we're just untying it
Correct.
and still
It can still be
earmarking
used
it.
as,
I don't like that term, but we're still
Yeah.
labeling it, you know, for that intention. And if you don't mind, I'll share with the council, I called Chris on Thursday, and he was, again, he's the one that's championed this thing all along, as you know. And I was just a little bit hesitant, you know, to go ahead with a design without having funding actually in place. And he just assured me and wanted to pass along with the council that as long as we're still good with the 353,
we can get to
they'll
our
make it
destination.
happen. And I'm confident in him, so.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe too, Mark, once we know the numbers, that will generate more fundraising.
I think,
We have
yeah,
solid
good point.
numbers, this is what we're going for, this is what our goals are.
Yeah.
And there is still a couple of possibilities out there right now that we would have full funding by the end of the year. CAT grants coming up. There's a couple other large grants that are coming open here within the next couple of months. So, you know, we can still go out and fundraise in that time. And I think, you know, me and Chris have discussed different opportunities that we can do that. But as far as our large match grants that we would really want to see to help the burden off of that side of things, you know, this is probably the best way forward.
Yeah. So I was satisfied with his
And Chad,
answer.
Chad,
to-
just because we
Yeah, the question.
allocate those funds to the project does not mean we can't still use those funds as matching funds, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, so if CAT comes around, any of these other large ones come around, or IEDA comes up with a brand new tourism grant or sports tourism grant, we can automatically show that we already have $353,080 set aside and promised by the city of Carroll to help with a match grant. That way we also don't have to bring a resolution every single time stating that it's for a match grant.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me, so.
So my question is what is that last 353 gonna be used for down there if it's a delay in getting this 353 through grants?
Sure.
What other projects are you gonna be doing that the last thing is for the 353?
Which part of this project is the last absolute
What
bit
are
of
you
it?
gonna use that last 353 for?
I don't understand last 353.
If you don't get the grant right away,
Sure.
let's say it's a year or so if you get it, you're doing all these projects and you haven't got to this 353,000 that you're gonna use because you don't have the money, what is that project gonna be down there?
Guess I'm still
Oh, yeah.
confused.
What are the priority
What's the last thing you're
projects?
gonna build down there?
Oh, sure. I think press box is probably closer to the end, along with the dugout expansion. Number one was lights and protection and ADA bleachers. So I think those three, at least two of those probably need to be done in the very near future.
You have the funding for that.
Correct. I mean, with this, especially with the 50,000 from Carroll County and 10 each from the school district, and the Carroll Athletic Association has already raised almost 100 and some, or over 100 and some thousand. So, I mean, we're 2/3 of the way there. I know the bottom number has been 921,000. That's been our goal this entire time. But we've been able to pick and choose some of the things that were involved in the very beginning that maybe we can wait on till the end, or maybe just doesn't need to be a part of this project. So we know we've brought that number closer to 8 or 850 while we still approach all of these. Now that's without engineering, that's without any of these numbers coming back to us at this time. And obviously, it's without having any bids out there to see where those bids are gonna come in.
Chad, did the state prioritize it all? They said this is what we'd like to have
Correct.
done.
Yeah.
Are they, so what you just mentioned is what they're looking for?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Lighting, ADA,
Yeah,
bleachers,
ADA's big.
yep. Protective netting, that was high on their list.
Okay.
And then some of the special ones would be like dugout expansion. The dugouts are long enough, they're just not now wide enough.
Okay, okay.
And then, you know, there's some other little cosmetic things in there that
Okay.
probably could go by the wayside as far as this project. So we can keep state happy and do the things we need to have high level of
That's
baseball
what I was
being
thinking,
played.
keep them happy.
Yeah.
So with all this money that we're spending, have you had any talks with them, with the state, or can we keep baseball here for a long time if we're gonna spend this?
Yeah, so obviously they would want to stay here if we have a lot of this stuff. Now, are they going to promise me right now? No, they can't. They're still looking for a place for 3A and 4A next year, so we're in discussion a little bit about that. We're not sure what's going to happen on that end. But yeah, I've been closely talking with Andy Untham with Iowa High School baseball
So how many years left do we have, this year and?
this year and one more.
Here. Worries me about spending $1 million for the betterment of that stadium when we can't keep state baseball here.
I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
I know.
We don't spend it, we probably don't get them. We spend it, it improves it for not only Merchants games, Kemper games, and Carroll games,
Get that.
but we also
Which
might
we
not
could
get
just use
them.
it as a bargaining tool.
Correct. And you know, they did a great job. They came to bat for us to try and get the Destination Iowa grant too.
Okay.
So
That helps.
I walked around with Andy, who's the brand new head of, or director of baseball with the state, a couple weeks ago now, and they want to be here. I mean, that was his statement over and over again, as he heard nothing but amazing things coming out of Carroll. So
That makes me feel
that
better about
definitely
spending the
is
million.
a very good side to be
Well,
on.
Laverne, when I talked to Chris, I asked him about Dyersville. You know, I'm concerned we could lose it to Dyersville, and he said that is not gonna happen. He said that, I forget the person that actually makes the decision, but he does not believe that that what they're doing over there aligns itself with state baseball.
Correct.
And it's a little bit akin to, you know, when they were in Des Moines, you know, that it just didn't have the same vibe and feel to it. And
Correct, yeah.
so he said, as long as he's making the call, that won't happen.
Well, Dyersville, they don't have motels either.
Yeah. And
Don't have the
what was
infrastructure.
interesting is he said that, you know, Iowa City hosts the other two. And he said they really don't care if they get it or not, which
It's
really
on the
shocks
university's
me, I think.
campus. Parking's not great there.
I said we'd take all four then, is what, if we could make that work, but yeah,
Yeah.
careful what you wish for, right?
Correct. But, yeah, there's a lot of things going against them. I mean, staff, it's in the
Yeah,
middle
quote
of the
me on
summer
that.
there.
I'll make it happen.
That's usually a time they're off, and they don't have the volunteer base that we do for an event just like that. They just don't have the people that care like Carroll does.
Yeah,
And that's why we're
Perfect.
very fortunate, and that's why they want to be here.
yeah. Laverne, I'm gonna go back to, I think you made a good point about the last things, and it really hadn't occurred to me, but let's have the discussion. You know, so often how these grants work is everybody wants to be last in. And are you believing that we should be last in? I mean, was that the direction you were taking that?
Well,
And if so, we need to have a
Yeah, but
discussion
I
about
guess,
it.
I guess what we need is some type of schedule, of what you plan on doing and where these dollars are gonna go. And then we get to the point where we're running out of money, what has to be built?
Sure.
And if part of that has to be on some of the money that we have to put in, then you're starting a project you don't have all the funds for, is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I completely understand that. You know, that's kind of the point of having those match grants to begin with, that we started with.
So
We
that-
had to
that's what
have
worries
money.
me. Are you gonna be starting a project,
Well,
hoping to get
even
that
if we get
353 and
the
it doesn't happen?
first two phases, what I would call the first two phases done, all we've done is increased a little bit of capacity and made all the bleachers ADA accessible. And added protective netting for anybody going and watching the games.
Yeah.
The other part of that is the reason why we want to do the professional service agreement with Shive Hattery, so that we have all of
Help
those
determine
projects
and have them ready
figured
to
out
go.
as far as cost wise,
okay.
so we can make better determination of how to spend the money that we have available to us.
That's the second part of this.
And then final prioritization could be made at that time.
Correct.
Yeah, and to Carolyn's point too, I think that it just generates, better opportunities for fundraising and
Yep.
that type of thing too,
Absolutely.
so it makes sense. Any other questions, comments? So then I would seek a motion to move forward with the resolution to approve the professional service agreement with Shive Hattery for Merchants Park. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I think Laverne beat you at it, and then Tom was second. Any further discussion?
Quickly, do we need to have any sort of vote by the board as far as the budgeting side of things as well?
We should have a resolution or a vote to uncouple the ARPA funds from the Destination Iowa grants, so that it's just designated for.
Yeah, I'm
Merchants Park
sorry,
project
yeah,
also.
but thanks for adding that, because that's really the
problem.
purpose of it. Yeah, I mean, it's two purposes. We're gonna enter into a contract, but we want to uncouple it.
You got it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So is those motions still good? Your motion still good then?
Well, that's just for Shive Hattery. You wanna have another motion to uncouple,
Or to include it?
to include it?
To
I'm fine
include
with
it.
including it.
Okay. You're good? Okay, motion and a second. Thanks for the clarification. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Space?
Yes.
Schreck? Yes. Wardenaro?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great, thank you. Okay, item number 6E is the budget amendment for the number 2 for fiscal year 22 and 23. And I see 6:02. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing, Deb. And let's see, I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
As we've talked in the past, this is a very similar process that we've done every year. We've talked in the past, our budget for this fiscal year is in very good shape. However, with better cost estimates for insurance and for capital projects, the transfers of funds to make sure that those funds are spent specifically for those projects, that's what our transfer of funds or requirement is for this budget amendment. Nothing crazy or anything out of the ordinary, but being more specific with the dollars.
Yeah, and in our packets, we've got the list of the entries there, so
Correct.
Laura went over this pretty well 2 weeks ago. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of for the public hearing of the number 2 budget amendment for fiscal year 23? No other calls or?
Nope.
requests?
No other
Okay.
positive or negative
Either-
comments.
No comments, okay. I will go ahead therefore and close the public hearing at 6:04. So once again, before the council is a resolution to approve the city budget amendment number 2 for fiscal year 22-23. Is there a motion to that?
Second.
JJ, seconded by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks.
Yes.
Bordenaro.
Yes.
Schreck.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Very good, thank you. Okay, item number 7, under reports, we have vicious animal appeal hearing, and I'll initially turn this over to Dave for kind of some ground rules.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a brief summary of the situation and just kind of set the stage for the council regarding this appeal. On April 20, 2023, Chief Brad Burke declared Madeline, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, Madeline Preston's dog, named Bandit, a vicious animal pursuant to the Carroll City ordinances, and ordered the dog to be removed from the city limits. On April 21, 2023, Ms. Preston directed a letter to the city that acted as an appeal of Chief Burke's declaration. The council is now to conduct the appeal and hear the evidence of all the parties that will be presented tonight. And after the appeal concludes, the council must either affirm or reverse the declaration of Chief Burke. So that is your duty tonight. In order to determine whether or not the dog is vicious pursuant to the city code, a vicious animal is defined as an animal which has attacked a domestic animal or a human being one or more times without provocation and while at large. The term at large is defined also by our city ordinances, and it is defined as off the premises of the owner and not under the control of a competent person. So the council will essentially sit as the fact finder or jury in this situation. And Chief Burke will begin the presentation of evidence, and then we will move into any evidence that Ms. Preston would like to bring before the council.
Okay, very good. This is only my second one. Let's see if I can handle these things right. But essentially, as Dave pointed out, we will hear the evidence from Chief Burke and the police department, and then anybody can speak that's here can speak in favor of the support of the ordinance, and then the council will ask questions at that time if need be, and then we will also give an opportunity for those that want to speak to refuse it or to deny it, or the ordinance, and then there'll also be time for questions then. And then if I think I pretty well outlined that.
I will be sitting out on this for vote as Madeline does rent from me, so.
So you're essentially going to recuse yourself
Yep.
from it? Okay. Do you want to have a vote or a say in it then whatsoever? Okay, very good. So I'll turn it over to Chief Burke then.
Thank you,
please.
Mayor. I'll start off just going through the call that occurred that night, and I'm gonna have Officer Matt Kennebec come up, and then Marlene Leonard is here also to speak on the incident that happened with her. So this was back on April 17th, 2023, and we received a call around 4:37 p.m., and it was from Mike Leonard, which is Marlene's husband, that Marlene had been bitten by a dog while she was out for a run, and that she was currently at a McFarland Clinic seeking medical attention. The officer did meet with Marlene at McFarland Clinic, and she was receiving some stitches into her left calf at that time. He got some information from her and then proceeded with his investigation into the incident. Matt, why don't you come up here? I'll have Matt kind of run through what he went through, how he was able to identify where the dog belonged, and he also spoke to both parties, so he can give some information on that also.
Yeah, swear in.
Yes.
Here, raise your, swear you're in, Matt.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Just go ahead and start off. I guess you can kind of run through your report, how you met with Marlene, the injury that you saw, and what you determined to show that the dog was at large, and how you determine who the dog belonged to, and I know that we didn't get an exact address when they called in, so how you kind of got to the location.
I was called to McFarland Clinic at approximately 4:37. Mike and Marlene were both there. Marlene was getting stitches in her left calf. I believe there was 8 stitches. I asked Mike where she was at when she was running because she was getting her stitches done. And he said that she goes south on Crawford, and then she took a turn east on West Bluff Street, and that there was a greenhouse, I believe, that there was 2 dogs outside, a black one, and then a golden and brownish dog. So I followed those directions. I went south on Crawford, and I turned east on West Bluff Street, where I saw a greenhouse where Madeline was outside with her 2 dogs at that time. It was very apparent that was the location where it happened. Right when she saw me, she knew what was going on. She started to get her dogs inside, which they did. And she acknowledged the situation and told me what had happened. She said that she was outside with her dogs, and Marlene was running by, and that she went inside to get a dog toy to play with her dogs outside. And then while she was inside was when this happened. And I determined that it was at large because Marlene was running in the street. And Madeline said that the engagement happened not on her property, that it was within the street.
The map on the board with the pin is actually 418 West Bluff Street, just for some kind of reference as to the location that you're seeing. So
Yep.
The pin is right in the middle of the house. Of course, the street is directly to the south there. Crawford Street is to the left of the picture, or the west. There's an alleyway that runs next to the house, and then Northwest Street is the next road to the east or to the right side of that picture, just for some clarification on that. You guys have any questions for Officer Kennebeck at all?
Matt, how did you determine which dog it was?
Because one was a black lab, and Mike said that it was the goldish brown dog. He gave a pretty good description of the dog, and Madeline also confirmed that.
If no other questions, I'll have Marlene come up too and give some information as to where she was at when this occurred, and also her injuries that were sustained by the dog bite.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the truth, is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Marlene, before you get started, can you on the map there, you can just point on the picture in front of you. Can you pinpoint approximately where this was at when you were running and when the dog bit your leg? The red pin is 418. That's the house that we're in.
Yeah. There's the street, yeah, the second house.
And so where were you at in the street, do you think, when the
It
dog
was
bit you?
right here
Okay.
when I got bit.
Okay. Were you on the south side of the road near the curb? Okay. All right. And can you tell the council just kind of the description of the dog that bit you, what you may have seen, and then your injuries that you sustained also?
Well, actually, the black lab came running out first, and I just shoot it away, and it went back home. And then it's when I was going up the hill, the brown one came behind me and bit me.
Okay. Where did he bite you?
Didn't see it.
Didn't see it
coming.
happen. Okay. Where did he bite you at? He's pointing to her left calf there too. Can you tell the council, Officer Kennebeck kind of indicated you had some stitches, what your injuries were, what you received? I know you had to go for some follow-up afterwards for some infection too.
Yeah, I had 8 stitches put in, and I was put on antibiotic, and then it wasn't healing good, so he put me on another antibiotic. It got infection in it, and then it still hasn't healed, and he gave me this slab to try and put on it and use that. And I go back Thursday to see if that's working.
Have your stitches have been removed at this point?
Yeah.
though? Okay. And then you said you were running on Bluff Street, is that correct? Okay. Did you have any animals with you at all when this was happening?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Have you had any problems with these particular dogs when you've run in the past?
Not really. They've come out before, but they've gone back to the house and stuff.
Did you-
Maybe once.
Did you see the dog's owner outside with them?
Not at the time I went by.
Okay.
Wasn't till later.
After you got bit, did you continue on your run, or what was your action after that?
I just yelled, "Your dog bit me. What's your name?" And I looked at my leg, and I had a block and a half to go home yet.
Okay. And what is your address?
108 Northwest Street.
Thank you. Any questions the council may have for her?
Did you take any pictures of the injury?
I have lots of pictures.
108 North.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't have those?
I don't have any pictures.
I actually have them on my phone, so like any text.
I have them on my phone.
Yeah, that's what I was
If you
gonna
wanna
say.
see 'em.
We've texted.
You certainly can. If see that red dot up there, if you open your phone and you put the picture up, where that red dot is at, there's a
Okay.
camera above you that'll pick that up and put it on the screen.
Brad, when you investigate, do you ever, I'm curious why it's still, this happened on April 17th, and here we are with it still infected. Do you ever ask, can you show proof of vaccinations, or is that relevant?
It is, because it's a requirement that you have a rabies vaccination, and she was able to provide rabies vaccination proof to us, and so that was a non-issue at that
Okay,
point, and we
thank
provided that back. I think we provided it back to Marlene, so she's aware. It prevents her from having to get rabies shots also throughout. So that was provided to us by the dog's owner, either that night or the next day. I don't recall. Officer Kennebeck got that information from them.
Okay, thank you.
This is what, from the time I entered the clinic to the time I left. And here's pictures from some in between. That was May 7th. That was May 8th. That was May 12th. That was May 15th. And this morning's was that.
That's this morning.
Mm-hmm.
How large is this dog?
We-
What does it weigh?
It's, I believe we listed it as a shepherd mix, like a German shepherd type mix, approximately 80 to 90 pounds. We may not be at 100% on that. It was based off of Officer Kennebeck's visual observation at the scene.
The vaccination record said that it was a 94-pound dog.
Okay, thank you.
Marlene, could you forward those pictures of your initial injuries to Chief Burke? And we'll enter those as part of the record of today.
I'll give you my card with my email. That's easiest.
And you don't need to do it right immediately, but thank you.
Any other questions for Marlene this time? I think we're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene.
Is there anybody else?
That is,
I would just like to speak on behalf of my dog. if
Yeah,
that's
you'll
okay.
get that opportunity here. I just want to, is there anybody else that want to speak on behalf of upholding the vicious dog ordinance? And we're done with questions. So at this time, we'll go ahead and ask you, Marlene, or Madeline.
I know it's a
Madeline?
little confusing. We both
Yeah,
have names.
yeah,
so-
Madeline.
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes. Hi guys. Firstly, I'm a little nervous because, I'm usually behind a computer, so this is a little different for me. But I want to apologize for what happened to her. This is not my dog. This is my dog. This is who my dog usually is. He goes in front of photographers. He goes to the dog park. He gets along with a lot of different people. He is a rescue. I will say that any sudden movement will trigger him. So maybe, and Matt did say that day it could have been the sudden fact that I wasn't outside at the present time that it happened. I did slip inside to get my lab a tennis ball. He chews them up regularly and we didn't have one. I really put a lot of trust in my dogs. So what I'm asking of you is to punish me and not my dog. Don't take him out of his home. I have offered to pay for her medical expenses. I've actually talked to her via text, and I have those text messages as well. It's not that big of a deal to me. I just want you guys to know that I did call McFarland today to see if there was like a payment plan that I could set up with them. So all she would have to do is get receipts. It would be seamless, anything. So I'm more than happy to, I just want to put that in there, not to be extra, but I'm more than happy to, provide anything. I do have a folder of his records, of the letter from city council, of my last bill from the vet, and of 2 witness letters. I don't know if you want me to pass this around or.
If you're interested in, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I do just have
Be
2 witness
admitted into
letters in there
evidence.
based on his temperament and the way he presents himself as a dog. So I take full ownership of what he did that day. He shouldn't have done it. I raised him better. He's a bigger dog, so that's going to be demeaning anyways. He's huge on alert barking, so that could have been a huge thing too. It could have been a perfect storm of being startled because any sudden movements of anybody else, he's going to be just as scared as you are. He's a really sweet boy, so that's all I wanted to say. I don't want to keep anybody, but if anybody has any questions for me, I take full responsibility for not being outside, and I take full responsibility for my dog biting this woman.
Does the council have any questions of Madeline? Pronouncing that right, Madeline?
Yes.
Can I just pull the 2 letters out and put them on top so we don't have to go through all the other stuff?
Oh, yeah, you're sorry. I tried to think of an order that would be helpful for you guys, but.
Madeline, I think my question for you would be, have the dogs consistently run loose in the yard with you?
I'll take responsibility for that, and that goes into me putting too much trust in them. I let them roam, and I shouldn't do that. That is why that happened that day, was because he wasn't tied up. So
Do you tie them up ever?
I try, and I do leash them when I take them on the trail. However, I need to get better about tying them up when they're just in the yard. I assume that they know their boundaries, which most of the time they do, but there are times that they don't, and this was a day that they did not. He thought that was okay to, something told him that Marlene was on our property and she was not, so she was just too close.
Madeline, have you ever received any warnings or dog at large tickets?
No, this is his first encounter ever, and we've lived out of state in the apartments, like in Ankeny. He's met a lot of mean dogs, a lot of disrespectful people that like to pound and like catch on to the things that scare him as a rescue dog, like lighters and plastic bags and knocking on doors and stuff like that. He's been through all that and not bit a single soul. You could dig back to any record I have and you'll find that this is our first encounter.
Give us just a moment so
Yeah.
everybody has a chance to
Yeah.
look at your
Yep.
affirmation there. Are there any other questions of Madeline at this point? Anyone? Yeah, she'll want those back. We'll just give those back to her. Pass those on to her.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak on behalf of Madeline or the dog?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
My name is Billy. Do I have to go up there, or can you hear me?
Yeah, you need to come up here and then you need to be sworn in as well.
Hi.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give today in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. Hi there. I'm actually new to the area. We moved here in November, and I met Madeline.
We'll need your name and address, please.
Sorry. Billy Martin. I live at 1128 North Clark Street. Yes. Met Madeline a couple months ago, began giving her rides, and the first time that I went over there, of course, she's got two rambunctious dogs when I went in. I've never seen either one of those dogs be aggressive. Meeting me as a new person, of course, they're going to be like a little concerned with who I am, but nothing to this extent. And I've seen people go by when I've been over there and not, I've never seen any odd behavior from them. So, and I'm not really a dog person. Sorry. I prefer cats. But yeah, I just want to say that he is a wonderful dog. Of course, he is a rescue. She has done a ton of work with him. She has went through a lot of, I don't know what the right word is, the rehabilitation.
Socialization was a big thing for him.
Yes.
When I first got him.
Yeah, and so he has made great strides. And so I would hate to see him ripped from her, because very much as he's kind of like her emotional support, I believe that she is the same for him. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Before we seek a motion, I'm just going to share just my thoughts on it. It's certainly an unfortunate event that happened, all parties. And I, for one, maybe appreciate your owning it rather than, putting it on the dog. However, we don't have a person ordinance. We have a dog ordinance, a vicious dog ordinance. And what happened, was unfortunately rather vicious. And the thing that's probably most challenging for the council on these things is we understand, the personal sides of these things as well. But what the council has to do is whether to uphold, or reaffirm the ordinance that's already in place, or, to, reverse it is essentially the term. What happens is if we let one slide, should it ever happen again, then it's a city's liability then, not just yours. And that's what makes it, really hard to reverse these things. Because again, the ordinance is already in effect. So with that, I'll just turn it over to the council for any comments, and then I'll seek a motion to either affirm or to reverse. Any comments? Hearing none, I would seek a motion to either affirm the ordinance or to reverse it. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to affirm.
Okay.
Second.
There's a second by Carolyn. So a motion to affirm the vicious dog ordinance by JJ and seconded by Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Bauer. Schreck.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Okay, so that is the end of tonight's agenda. No committee reports, no comments from the mayor. Comments from the city council? None? Comments from city manager?
Not tonight, sir.
None. I seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bass, Dirks,
Yes.
Ordinary.
We are adjourned.